Hi, this is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube. I'm here to do two read-along reviews today. This one is for Mark Gilman. It was written by him. It's Chapter 6 of Remains of Judgment, a Dark Shadows story. Alan, Alan, a female's voice faintly echoed with a slow, fluttering movement. Alan's eyes began to open. He struggled to focus on the pitch black surrounding him while he tried to sit up. His stomach was nauseous and his body completely limp and drained of all energy. He was covered in ash and soot, and his skin was darkened from the inferno he was just in. The Victoria, is it you? His voice rasped weakly as he spoke. Please listen. This will be the last time we speak. Victoria's familiar voice sounded through the void. It's time for you to face the truth. Your answers are waiting straight ahead. If you're going to save yourself, waiting straight ahead, save yourself and your family, rise and move forward. Alan, one last time, keep moving forward. Don't turn back in fear. No matter what you see or discover, keep going forward. Your hardest tests lie ahead. Everything will make sense if you keep going. Struggling to shift his knees to a squatting position so that he could try to stand, Alan leaned forward on his hands and elbows. Where is this? I can't see. You're beyond anyone's reach. You have to find your way. I can't help you anymore, Victoria replied. All that you've learned so far through your memories are all that you can take with you. Memories are what brought you here. Someone else's memories of you. Memories of me? How? I don't know, Laura. Or you. Her mother and father, anyone I've met here. Alan scoffed through labored breathing. Then how did you recognize me when we first met? Victoria questioned. You will soon find everything you need waiting for you. I'm so glad we met, Alan. You're a good man. You have been wonderful in doing everything that you've needed to do. Now you must face the final truth alone. Reaching his hand out in the darkness, Alan crawled slowly forward. Wait. Goodbye, Alan Reeve, Victoria whispered softly. A loud, drowning sound ran deeply in Alan's ears, causing him to cry out. He covered his ears and fell forward on his face. The piercing of the droning made his head hurt, so that he felt strong vertigo as he crawled up in a tight ball. When the drowning began to fade, Alan unclenched his eyes and opened them slowly. He felt the vertigo fading in his stomach beginning to settle. He took several deep breaths, staring out into the nothingness surrounding him. He struggled to stand, but with a spirited effort, he lifted his right knee forward and pushed himself up to a standing position. Keep moving forward. As he pressed forward, looking to the left and to the right, the void seemed to grow deeper and deeper. He wondered several times if he was walking into the right direction or what he was supposed to do, but he kept thinking of Victoria's direction, forward. After what seemed like an hour had passed, a light began to flicker in what seemed to be miles ahead of him. Quickening his pace, he pressed forward in the darkness, moving forward. The bright circle in Is this my death? Is this the light that everyone talks about? Am I dying? Did I already die? His mind raced as he found himself now running with a bright fade. He found himself standing inside a room, stopping dead in his tracks. He stared all around. This looked like an old study, dusty books lined wooden shelves, and a small reading table was in the center of the room. A quill and inkwell was resting on the table, resting on the top, as well as a piece of parchment paper with what looked like a child's handwriting. But if any provide not for his own, and and specifically for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and his worth than an infidel. Timothy 5-8. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him than a millstone were hanged above his neck, and that he were drowned in the depths of the sea. Matthew 18:6. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath. Ephesians 6:4. Sorry if I mispronounced that. The one who says, I have to come to know him, and does not keep his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him. John 2-4. Do not be deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Galatians 6:7. Laura Collins, puzzled by the writing, he grabbed the parchment from the table and stared closer. Laura, what is all this? Maybe something like homework her father Arthur made her write, I guess, Alan reasoned. Why would he have her write this, though? His questioning mind began to mull over the verses. This sounds like she's talking about him. Alan studied the handwriting more closely and saw the letters looked scribbled, as if written in a hurry, or maybe with deep emotion, much like if you write something down impatiently or when angry. Walking around the room, he found a bed with several papers scattered around aimlessly. On top, the word hypocrite was scrawled all over the fronts and backs of the parchment sheets in various sizes and heavy and light indentations. Arthur. Laura wrote these about Arthur. Alan sat on the bed as he spoke aloud. Of course she was angry with him because he left her alone with her mother. He was never home with her. Satisfied there was nothing else in the room, and he had nothing new to discover, he walked toward a door located to the right of the bed. Inside he saw a long hallway. He was startled and started when he walked ahead and startled. I had it right. When he walked ahead and heard sharp voices echoing, "Hypocrite! There are many children who don't have fathers and mothers, Laura. You have both. They need someone like me. If their souls are going to be saved, they need to know there's someone like me who has been there and made it, and have hope that God can turn their lives around. I'm sorry that I won't be here for a while, but you understand, right? I promise I'll bring you back something special. I always do. I love you, Laura." Hypocrite! I can't stay. I have to leave early, Laura. I know I promised you, but... Hypocrite! I have to, Laura. They need me. If I don't go, they'll never know how much God loves them. Those children are poor, and they need a friend. Maybe when you're older, you can come with me." "Hypocrite!" Reaching at the end of the hallway, Alan walked forward into a dimly lit room full of dusty mirrors. A faint reflection of his movements caught his attention. As he continued forward, the room seemed to go on forever. When he turned a corner, he saw a large rectangular mirror attached to the wall. He had reached a dead end. Suddenly, a reflection came to life. He could see something reminiscent of a small movie screen, forming pictures and still images. Pictures of events he had seen recently. Through his visions flashed across scenes of dinner with Victoria, Laura, Arthur, and Lilith. Happy memories, sad memories, frightened memories, painful memories. Then, much like a movie, the images started turning in constant motion in first-person view. Alan could see Lilith and Hakan dragging Laura into the woods and performing the ritual. Alan could feel the fear watching them from Laura's eyes and couldn't imagine the pain she was feeling. Alan had to turn his head when Hakan broke the lantern, causing her body to be completely swollen in flames. Victoria appeared and struggled with Lilith, but just as he remembered was overcoming by her and Hakan and murdered violently. The images began to distort as Laura's body burned and Victoria's lifeless body lay on the ground. He watched as Laura dove toward her mother and Hakan for the kill. Laura's eyes turned after Hakan breathed his last and lay dead on the ground. A man began running toward her. This was something different than he remembered. Alan remembered losing consciousness after Hakan was killed. So this was something new to him. Staring intensely at the screen, the man was nearly impossible to recognize. At first, the unknown man moved slowly into view. Alan wondered, "Arthur, what are you doing here?" Arthur looked horrified when he saw his daughter levitating above the ground, consumed by fire. Suddenly, a large tree toppled over and pinned Arthur to the ground. The fire around him moved slowly closer as he was stuck and unable to free himself. He reached his hand to Laura, weeping bitterly and crying out. Laura's eyes stayed fixed on him, but she turned and moved in the opposite direction. Suddenly, the images on the screen went blank. Alan stared at the reflection and was stunned by what he saw in the mirror. He saw Arthur's image moving with his. Each movement he made, Arthur mimicked. Every word he spoke, Arthur repeated. In unison, as Alan moved closer, so did Arthur. With nowhere to run, Alan turned and ran away from the giant mirror. The loud droning returned, and Alan collapsed on the floor. The room began to glow in deep red and became very hot. The droning became louder, and Alan looked all around him as he covered his ears. The phoenix symbol burned into the glass of all the mirrors surrounding him. The floor beneath him began to glow and flicker, a bright red and orange, as if on fire beneath the surface. His body covered in perspiration, and he felt like he was inside of an oven. He choked to breathe, but made his way back forward to the giant mirror where Alan's reflection was still mimicking his movements. Alan's clothes began to burn his skin as they grew hot and sticky with the rising temperature in the room. He screamed out and looking at the mirror, crying for God to save him. With a bright flash that blinded him, the room vanished, and he felt himself lying on the hard wooden floor. Alan cried in pain and couldn't stop for several minutes. He lay on his back, sobbing and weeping. He sucked in a deep breath to try to slow his gasp because the pain was so intense. Why? He asked over and over. Why is this happening? Why? What did I do? I don't understand. You don't know? Why doesn't he know? A small voice spoke. A man's voice answered. Be patient. He's in shock. Alan reached his hand out. Please, someone help me. Alan felt a strong hand grasp his, pulling him forward, and another on his back, steadying him. Please, stay still, the man spoke in a compassionate and calming voice as he touched his eyes, now focused on Alan. The sound of a squeaking wheel moving toward him startled him. It's okay, Alan. You don't have to be afraid. You're safe here, the man spoke. Tell me what you see. Alan fixed his eyes forward. A girl covered in soiled bandages, sitting in a wheelchair, made her way toward him slowly. The man helped him stand and led him to her. You can see this girl? No? With a question. Alan nodded. Yes, it's you, isn't it, Laura? Laura's bandages covered her eyes, began to water as tears stained them again. So do you remember? Oh, Daddy, I'm so glad. Alan stepped back. Laura, I'm not your father. I'm not Arthur. My name is Alan Reeve. I want some answers. Why are you punishing me? Don't you know what all you've done to me? You've ruined my life. Laura rolled her wheelchair back as Alan's tone grew more angry. You forgot me. You don't remember me, Laura asked. I've never met you before. You fill my head with all this undeserved memories that aren't mine, and I've lost my family because of you, Alan snapped angrily. Laura lost all inhibitions and began crying loudly. Alan, please, the man shouted as he stepped between them. The name is Daniel. This is going to be difficult for you to understand, but this is your judgment. We are at somewhat of an impasse. I'm dead. Alan's eyes grew wide as he turned to Daniel. Yes and no. You see, you died a long time ago, Daniel answered. You lived once before. You died, but rather than facing judgment for what you did, a special request was made on your behalf. Rather than facing judgment for your life, you were given a new life and a new chance for redemption. I died once before? Alan stood bewildered. Laura made a special request. She wanted her father to have another chance. As much as she blamed him for what had happened to her, she loved him and wanted to be with him. She wanted to know that her father could change. Daniel stared at him deeply in the eyes. Her father, Arthur Stockbridge, was you, Alan. So that's the read alone. What they're trying to say is Alan Reeves is the reincarnation. What Mark's trying to say is, that Alan is the reincarnation of Arthur, which is so Dark Shadows, which is really, really good, that you have this character who has no memory of, being that person because he has forgotten. But Victoria, the dreams he's had, and Victoria was leading him to remember who he was, trying to help him remember who he exactly was. And now you have Daniel telling him, this is who you were once, but you are the reincarnation of him. This isn't so much just Laura's judgment. This is his. It's his judgment. The things that Arthur did as a father, and sort of all of Arthur's efforts for these kids who didn't have moms and dads, and going to them and teaching them about God. Yes, they were good. That was a good thing. But in the same sense, he was abandoning his own child to a very abusive mother. And that this is his redemption. This is his, well, judgment and redemption, if you will. And that is something so well put together here. This is not the final chapter, by the way, but really, really well written by Mark Gilman, who's at /Barnabas. I love the scene setting you get with the woods, the ashes, the darkness, the mirror. It was Dark Shadows, it was Silent Hill, it was a lot of things, but in its own context. And that is what a creator should be, sort of their own creator. And that's something Mark did really, really well throughout this story, and definitely here. I enjoyed it very, very much so far. I've been enjoying this. I've read this before, not on my channel, but I'm reading it out loud now, obviously. Um, so, link will be in the description box, and I want to thank you guys for joining me.